Okay, right, so I'm here now with Gavin from the Harrogate Wargames Club. They've just won the best participation game for this show, and you can see why by looking at these pictures, because it is a marvellous looking game. I mean, one of the great things you've done here is you've let people pay with your marvellous painted figures. Sometimes people are a bit protective in participation game, but these are fabulous looking figures. Who's contributed? Is it mainly you, or is it all the club? Or?
No, it's been a club effort. So I painted most of the figures because I'm really passionate about this period. But John's painted some Swiss which are absolutely amazing, and Alex helped me build all the terrain. And we've all worked on the rules and the scenario as well. So it's a real team effort. Like these poplar trees that John's made, they're really that nice touch to make it like the Italian vibe.
Yeah, they do look good. Yeah, and the rules themselves, of course, that you're using are very interesting because it's some bastardisation of sharp practice, isn't it?
Yeah. So I've always really struggled to find a good medieval rule set. Like I do love like Dragon Rampant, Lion Rampant, Pikeman's Lament, and we ran a similar game of this period at Hammerhead with Pikeman's Lament, and it was really good fun and really quick, but it lacked the depth and the sort of 3 dimensions that I think sharp practice has for black powder. But we saw, like, there was on a blog, I can't remember what it's called, but somebody did a War of the Roses adaptation of sharp practice, and we tried that last year, but the period just didn't quite work, and the rules weren't quite there. But in the new summer special from Sharp Practice, Nick Worthington has done this sharply buffed, which when we read it, we just thought that'd be perfect for the period. It's a bit later, but we've used the basic rules and we've tweaked the unit stats based on what our limited knowledge is of the period to make it work. And we were actually really surprised that it works really well, and we're really, really chuffed with it. And we became quite excited about playing this period with these rule sets.
Have you had plenty of interest from participants today?
We have indeed. It's been a lot of, early in the morning at participation games, it's always like people, you're a bit full on pousing on people and they want to look around and stuff like that. But we've had a lot of games, and because we're quite new to the tweaks and the campaigns, they've taken a bit longer than we'd have liked. But yeah, we've had a few people through, got some constructive feedback on the scenario and the rules, and we made some tweaks, so this game's playing a lot better. And nothing's been snapped.
Oh, well, that's good.
Or broken.
You're taking everything away in mint condition, that's good. Well, it's a great looking game, and yeah, thanks very much for bringing it along.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
She's off for 2 weeks, and she's back about 4 or 5. I don't think someone's back to it's alright, it's morning, but my only aim now is to get promotion in the morning and then so the more you get paid, I will retire early, so it will lose some of the pension, because the bigger the pension is, you can lose. If I retire £4 higher than where I would, that means I can retire.
Right, so I'm here with James from the ORWELL Wargamers, looking at this table, and it's first thing that strikes you is it's quite different from a lot of the other ones that are around at the show today because it's so tiny.
It is.
So what scale are we looking at?
6mm.
Okay, and what period are we in here?
It's colonial, so Sudanese or Sudan. We wanted to do something at a little bit of a smaller scale. We're conscious that most of the games at the show tends to be in the bigger scales, so we want to bring the 6mm to people's attention, really.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's a strikingly nice looking table. You've got a nice mat down there. Who's made that mat? Is that commercially available?
It is, yeah. It's Deep Cut Studios mat. We bought it through Simon Miller, who sells them, and the terrain was made by my brother, and the figures were painted by myself. But yeah, the mat's a deep cut.
And who are the figures by?
They're BACCUS. They're all BACCUS 6mm.
So what game are you playing here?
This is a fictional representation of an Anglo-Egyptian retreat from a town that's been taken over by the Mahdi forces. They've formed square out in the plain, and now they're being attacked from all sides. And it was really set up to demonstrate a set of rules that I'm working on at the moment, which is a variant of To the Strongest, but a colonial version, which is in play testing at the moment. So it was to give people a chance to come along, have a look at it, and if they wanted to, have a game as well.
Okay, that's great. So make sure you keep us posted on the development of the rules.
Yeah, we'll do.
Good to see it.
We'll do.
When it's finally out. And yeah, great looking game. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Okay, right, so now we're on to Phil Olley's table, another marvellous looking table from Partizan, called the Other Partizan this year. First of all, tell me just a bit about this battle, Phil. What is it that we're looking at?
Well, the battle is actually a fictional action setting a fictional world that I created somewhere in the middle of the 18th century. The campaign is called the Pils-Holstein campaign, and Pils-Holstein is my made-up world that is surrounded by real states of the time, like Prussia and France, but Pils-Holstein is the territory over which they're fighting, and there are a couple, more than a couple, of homegrown units, fictional units involved on the table as well. And the whole idea is that it's a French and Austrian incursion into Pils-Holstein territory, and Pils-Holstein, being a beautiful territory, rich in resources, has managed to get the help and support of the Prussians who've come to their aid. And it's the Battle of NEERFUNKEN, which is a made-up battle, NEERFUNKEN.
Okay, right. There's some great-looking lines of figures here, some really nice examples of linear warfare. Looking down the lines, it all looks very smart. Everyone's looking everyone's looking sort of parade ground perfect here. Is that something you like to see in your games?
Certainly in the 18th century, my idea of this as a spectacle was that I wanted to create lots of infantry that were marching, and that would allow the vignette pieces, the commanders and so on, to stand out. That's where the interest lies. So the wallpaper, if you like, of the scene is marching infantrymen. That's very much the background. And I do like it for this period because that's certainly how they fought, the linear style, as you say. Very much all marching shoulder to shoulder before levelling muskets and firing and hoping that the best side won. And I had the figures made myself. I commissioned someone to sculpt them for me and design. I helped with the design, and then I had them cast because I felt that commercially there wasn't anything that quite matched my idea. Everyone's different, everyone's got an idea of what they like, and I decided to do that for this collection, and it makes it unique. They're not commercially available.
Oh, right, I didn't realise that.
Yeah.
And like you say, some great little vignette pieces, whether it's the statues in the town or the command stands themselves, they really do sort of pop out of the table.
Yeah.
Another thing that does is items of the scenery as well, like the windmill turning around, which I'm sure has been attracting quite a bit of attention.
It has. It's quite a strange thing. I made that a few years ago now. Scratch built the windmill and decided that, like many people of our age group, they would remember Camberwick Green and Windy Miller. I thought we need a motorised windmill, so I got this motor and put it in, and at first it turned far too fast, and then we've managed to get the resistors in to get the speed down, and I think it's rotating probably still slightly too fast, but it's okay.
Yeah, it's obviously kicking out a lot of flour.
Absolutely, they're milling a lot, and we've got a lot of the buildings. Well, all of the buildings are scratch built again and painted by me, and the terrain similarly is all scratch built and so
the
on.
explosions again are another thing that's very nice looking explosions.
Yeah. But we've got a major artillery piece that is Pils Holstein's pride and joy, which is the Grossenbomber, which is a large artillery, a piece of ordnance that sits in a redoubt in the middle of the lines there, and it pumps out massive shells that land hopefully amongst the French as they approach. This morning the first dice was to see what the effect of this first fire would be, and we rolled a 1, which meant it misfired and had to miss several turns while they repaired it. So that was a sort of start of the day. Yeah, you know it's going to be a bad day when there's a misfire.
Yeah.
And then it misfired again the second time it had an opportunity, and I think it's only fired a couple of times today, but it has had some effect when it's landed amongst the advancing French infantrymen, so that's good.
Yeah, what rules are you using?
They're my own rules. I created a set of rules called a Grim Panoply, which is homegrown stuff. They draw on inspiration from many other rule sets, but I'm putting them together, and hopefully at some point in the future when I get time I will produce them commercially and make them available. But the idea behind that would be to create a book that had the whole story of the Pils Holstein campaign as an appendix to the rules as well, with some examples of gameplay throughout. But that's a long job that needs either me to retire or give up the day job first, but that's not going to happen.
Well, make sure you keep us posted on that.
Yeah,
as well.
will do.
But yeah, it's a great looking game. Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much for bringing it to the show.
Thanks, Dan. It's been a pleasure, and thanks for your interest as well.
All right. See you. Right, what have you been doing? Great, all right. Hello, morning. Right, so Mr. Ian Smith, we're looking here at a 40mm Napoleonic game. Can you tell us a bit about it? It's based on an episode of Sharp, a particular episode? Or?
Yes, it was the one where Liz Hurley was featured and showing rather more of herself than we've seen recently. And it always stuck with me because as a wargamer and as a display maker, I always think of things that will be attractive to the eye. And the idea of the convent and the French coming through the pass, and the fact that the French then decide if they can get through the pass, they can get behind the British lines. As a novel, it is my favourite of the Sharpe anyway. And I just, when I thought about doing this, I thought that would make a great scenario for the game.
Yeah, and I mean the table itself looks very cinematic. You've got a story from beginning to end, really, from the convent at one end and to the fighting at the other end with the lines of the British and the French. So the whole table itself tells a story. Is that something that's important when you're putting on a demo game? I
have always believed that you need something that members of the public can come in, see it, but then come back during the day and discover lots of little things. So I always try and add little cinematic things. I always think of a display game almost like a bit of theatre, in as much as it should tell a story and it should be interesting, so people don't just see the back of the head of the wargamers, you know, because for me it's all about engaging the public, and hopefully they come back and do an even better job than I do, and that gives me a lot of pleasure, and I'm here to sort of pass on my knowledge so that people will continue to keep doing this great hobby.
Yeah, and this is something you've been doing for many years then?
Yes, I mean, I first did a display game at Triples in Sheffield in the 80s. Bill Gaskin and I used to do a lot of games together in the 90s. AWI, ACW, and I've always needed display games as a way of finishing my own collections. So when you put yourself under time pressure, there's nothing like it for getting you to get out in that shed on a cold February morning, you know?
Yeah. What figures are we looking at here? They're all 40mm, but who are they manufactured by?
There's a lot of Sash and Sabre and Perry, as well as a line that's no longer done by Honourable Lead Boiler Company. As well as that, there's quite a few that I've made and had put into moulds. Sadly, one of the things about 40mm is it had a sort of burst of popularity around about 2009 when the Perrys launched their range, but they haven't made any new figures recently, and I think any period needs a steady drip of new figures to keep people interested. So a lot of this stuff, but that's a nice thing, because when I started this hobby, I was a great sort of fan of Peter Gilder, and I used to work for Hinchliffe. I used to do the stands in the 90s, and I found that we used to make a lot of stuff in those days. We used soldering irons, we would make figures. Gilder only ever made one figure, never made a trumpeter, so we had to make our own, and we just kind of did that. And I think modern wargamers are spoilt in a way in that the Perrys will make every possible figure you can think of. But what it does is it destroys the individuality and the creation element of figure making. And 40mm has kind of returned that to me, because I have had to make a lot of things because they're no longer available.
Okay, and what about the terrain on the table and the buildings? Are they scratch built, or is it?
They're all scratch built from a couple of guys. Dave, who's well known to everybody at TM Terrain, he made the monastery and the heights and most of the boards. And another friend of mine, Stuart Hitchinson, he goes under Captain Jack. He made a lot of the buildings and I painted some of them. So it's a bit of a joint effort, really.
Oh, okay, great. Well, it's a fantastic looking table, and
Thank you.
As you can see now, as you're looking around at the video while we're doing the talking. So yeah, great looking table. I'm looking forward to seeing your next one, which will be Salute next year.
American Civil War. Got a few specials that I've just been planning with Dave, so it should be good.
Okay, right. Looking forward to that. Cheers. Thanks, Ian.
Thanks, mate.
Right, okay, so joined by the Bodkins now, who sound like a poor folk band from the 1960s, but they're not. They're much worse than that. No, sorry, they're much better than that. They're a loose conglomeration of 4 very talented people, Simon, Dave, Matt and Dave. So, yeah. As you can see, looking around, you can see the brilliant game they've been putting on, CRECY, 28mm. So let's find out a bit about it. Start with you, Simon. Why CRECY? Is this a game? Is this a battle that you're particularly interested in?
Yeah, well, I think all the Bodkins are interested in medieval games, and CRECY is one of those iconic battles. It's the battle that effectively started the 100 Years' War. It's a victory against the odds, really, for the English. So it was something which we wanted to put on, and some of the Bodkins already started a collection with those armies, so it seemed a natural thing that we said, yeah, at some point we'll aim to get this game on.
Okay, so the most striking feature is obviously the colours of the figures on display. So we've got some brilliant medieval heraldry here. Did everyone contribute to that? Matt, bring you in on this. Matt Bickley, did everyone contribute with regard to figures?
Yeah, well, we split it up into 4 basically. So me, David, and Simon took the French, and David did the English. So everyone paints their portion. So about 30 bases of mounted knights per person on the French side, and Dave did the rest of the English, mostly archers.
So you took on the archers then, Dave?
Yeah, they're quite easy to paint, so.
That's why you did that one. How many figures are in total? Any idea?
I don't know, we've not actually counted them
Just
all.
shy of 300 cavalry, we reckon.
I think it's about 300 English.
And about 300 English.
And who's the manufacturer?
There's quite a lot of old Citadel Bretonians, some front rank figures, some foundry figures, some Claymore castings, and a few E-Bob ones.
Let's talk to Mr. Claymore castings now, David Imrie. So some of your figures on the table,
Yes.
both manufactured by and painted by you. A lot of great vignettes as well. Obviously, that's one of those striking things as well. Was that something that you were consciously focusing on, having some great looking centerpieces?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the casualties that were suffered by the French doing the charge had to be portrayed in some way. So fallen horses, dead, and table fillers, and all the different things that tell the story. Simon managed to paint some wagons filled with pavasses. One of the common beliefs that the Genoese failed was the fact that they didn't have their large shields with them, that they were back in the French wagon train, so that had to be modelled, and Simon stepped up to do that.
Oh, okay. And how did the game play out, Matt? How did the game play out today?
Initially, it was quite historical. The first charge went in, punched a big hole in the English line, knocked the Black Prince over, and then everything else tended to fall off the hill. But then it came back, and now the English are off to Calais, early boat home.
Oh, right. So you did get to a conclusion then. As you say, everyone's packing up around us, but you just about got there in the end.
Yeah.
What rules were you using?
Hail Caesar.
Well, it's a marvellous looking game. Well done, boys, and well done for winning the best of show as voted for by me. So, yeah, congratulations, everyone.